Hey everybody, it's Joe from the Strange Voyage Files. It is February 13th, 2025, and this is a red letter date in heavy metal. It is the day that 55 years ago in the United Kingdom, this album, the first Black Sabbath album, was released, and heavy metal was born. I'm not going to go into, I have like a reissue of the US version. I also have an older US version as well. I am not going to go into the whole, there was Cream and there was, because some people say metal could have started with Cream. I have this one. This looks like this was probably the version that came out in the US in 1970. Could be wrong, but it sure looks like it is. Unless they have the gatefold in the U.S., then this would not be it, because I don't have the gatefold. But this one is definitely from the 70s at least. But I am not going to get into the whole Blue Cheer and MC5 and even Led Zeppelin or Deep Purple or anybody else started heavy metal. Started here. Right here. With this album cover, this band, and a nice picture of Louisa Livingstone at the, I gotta look it up, at the mill, but we'll look at that in a minute. Okay, so, yeah, this is the album that starts it all. This is the album that begins heavy metal. This is the album that goes on to influence millions of future musicians and some of the greatest bands of all time. And it's the Maple Durham Watermill. Now, I know I've said that that from now on I'm gonna do the review and then I'll do my spiel. This one's I'm gonna do whatever I want with this video, because this is more of a retrospective and anniversary of this unbelievable album. Now, I follow the Maple Durham Watermill on Facebook, and because I don't care where else I go in this world, that's where I want to go. That is the only place that, as like a tourist, that I want to go. And there are tours and whatnot, and I know at one point you could only do tours with groups. But a lot of people on Facebook, they post their pictures of themselves in front of the Maple Durham Watermill, and they just say, "Hey, I went to the grounds. The gate's locked. We didn't hop the fence." Although there are people who have said they did hop the fence, but said the groundskeeper came up. I slipped him 100 or whatever it may be, and you open the fence and go take your Black Sabbath pictures, man. Have fun. So one way or another, I will definitely make it to the Maple Durham Watermill. But that is the creepy farmhouse that's on the back of this iconic album. This was I was born in the mid 1970s, so I was not around, and I didn't, as I said before, I didn't really get into heavy metal till about 85, 86. 86. I could only imagine what it would have been like to be preteen or a teenager getting this album, especially living in Aston and Birmingham, where Black Sabbath comes from. It would just, because this is an album that spoke to you, and if I've read Ozzy's book, whatever much he wrote it, but I read the book that it bears his name. I've read Tony's book, and I've read Geezer's book. I still would love to see a Bill book. And they all have said in one form or another that they're just listening to all this. If you come to San Francisco, wear a flower in your hair. And they're like, what are you talking? What? Flower in your hair? We're growing up where there's still craters from the Germans bombing the countryside. So this was music for them. This was music for the people of Birmingham. This was for music for the working class. And of course, it gets all twisted because in the inner sleeve, which again I don't have that out version of the album. The inner sleeve, there's an inverted cross in it, and there's all the liner notes in the inverted cross. So that starts the whole satanic thing. Now, interesting story. I remember reading or hearing an interview from Geezer. I gotta say it was reading. I want to say it was probably in a magazine because this goes back so long ago. And Geezer grew up in a very strict Catholic family. He's kind of distanced himself from the Catholic Church himself, his kids, and I guess his grandkids, because he he just recently said in an interview he was at his grandkids' school, and I believe they were performing a Black Sabbath song. Don't quote me on that, but he said it was a Catholic school. So he's kind of distanced himself from the Catholic Church, but his family still is Catholic, are Catholic, and I've grown up Catholic, so this kind of resonated with me. He told the story that the band had, and they've all said that none of them knew about this Upside Down Cross. They had no idea this was happening. And when he got the album, when they got the first version of, not the CD, but the album, and they opened it up, they were all in shock, and they all said that in their books. Geezer goes a step forward, and he says as he's on his way home with this album, carrying, I mean, God, how proud would you have been? You not only made a monumental album that's going to change the world, but you just made an album. He wanted to go home, show his parents, and it hits him. There's an upside down cross in this album, and I'm going to go show my strict Catholic parents that. And he said it was really a kind of a knife in the heart because he was so excited and so happy, and he wrote all the lyrics, and so it wasn't just like he was just playing bass on the album. He was a monumental part of creating this album, and he's going to go home and he's now kind of disappointed and is scared as to how his parents are going to react to the album. So, but I'm sure it went over well. And that story I don't believe was in his book because, man, I have told that story for decades. So I read that somewhere along the lines in like Rip or Circus or whatever metal magazines there were. But at any rate, yeah, it's released on Friday the 13th, and again, record company does that on purpose to go along with this ambience of this dark and looming and evil type album. And the story goes, the Black Sabbath is they got the name Black Sabbath from a movie, and that in response to all this flower power music, their thought was, let's scare everybody. Let's write music that scares everybody. And they did, and it worked out very, very well. Now, I'm going to play some, in a minute or so, I'm going to play the tracks again, piecemeal, because I want to make sure that this video doesn't get taken down. But it's really, they do this on Paranoid too with Luke Swall and War Pigs and Fairies Wear Boots and Jack the Stripper, where they combine, some of the songs really are one song, or could be considered one song, but they split them up with different names to make it look like the album is longer. So I always thought that was kind of funny. Now, when the album's released in Europe, it has the song Evil Woman, Don't Play Your Games With Me with the B-side of Warning. And in the United States, Warning is on the album. Now, there wouldn't have been a logic to have Warning be a single. So eventually, there's reissues and whatnot. And of course, imports come in. So in the U.S., you eventually can get Evil Woman. But for a long time, from the stories I've heard, again, because this is before my time, before I was old enough, my older cousins and whatnot would say, no, we didn't know of the song Evil Woman. So some of them did, some of them didn't. So it wasn't readily available. And Ozzy tells the story that, Evil Woman, Don't Play Your Games With Me is a cover of the Crow song. And he says that BBC One, he says in his book, they played it on the radio once. and it was at 5 a.m. I think it was on a Sunday, and something goofy like that, maybe 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. I don't know. Extraordinarily early in the morning. And he's up, and they're all up, but he's up and he's very excited, and they play it, and his parents kind of don't know what to make of it, and he's running around the house singing it, and he sings it to his mother and whatnot. So there was still this era of, I don't want to know if innocence isn't the right word, but this is a much different band than we have now, where we have the beginning of the back to the beginning, and money. These guys didn't have anything. If this album would have produced grocery money, they would have been happy. So, and I remember, again, Ozzy says he bought a pair of shoes. He bought cologne because he couldn't stand the way he smelled, and I think he gave the rest to his parents. Don't quote me on that. For when he originally got his first check for this album. So, a very, very interesting one. And then there's this great story of the model who, and this just adds to the mythos of this album. 55 years old today, man. And up until the 50th anniversary, because nobody cared back then and nobody thought this thing was going to be what it became. Nobody knew who she was. Nobody knew who this woman was for 50 years. And finally it comes out, she's model Louisa Livingstone. And, and that comes out in 2020. I'm reading this, comes out in 2020. And, it was always this mystery. Even the band. Now, the band was not on the photo shoot. So the band, to this day, I don't know if they've ever met. I've read and I've watched a couple of videos on this. Maybe Tony's met her. I don't know. But I remember seeing old interviews of Sabbath when they're talking about it, and they said, we have no idea who this woman is. And the guy who went, Stuart McMillan, who was credited as Keith, who was kind of in charge of this, Keith Stuart McMillan, didn't have much input as to who it was. This was a day player. And she was like 19 years old, and she claims she was naked under the black robe, and she is holding a cat, and there were some pictures of her naked instead, that they considered for the cover, and I guess the record company said, no, it's that's not gonna push album sales, and it doesn't really fit with this mood that we're trying to sell with Black Sabbath. So there was a lot of an aura of mystery, of mystique with this whole album, even from the point of didn't even know who the cover model was. And God, a lot of you are going to remember this too. There was that old story that the cover was just the watermill, and when they exposed the film, this dark figure just appeared. You guys, some of you who are the 45 and older crowd, some of you are going to laugh and go, I remember that story, I remember that. And there were different variations where the cat appeared, which I can't even, I'm looking at this thing, man, I don't even know if I can tell there's really a cat in this picture. So there was it was a very, very interesting very interesting whole just kind of body of work in itself. Nobody had ever heard anything like it. It was completely unique, and it changed the world. And it gave us Iron Maiden. It gave us Dio in many ways. It Metallica, Megadeth. I'm sorry, but if Led Zeppelin, I'm not the biggest Zeppelin fan. I don't dislike Zeppelin, but I'm not the biggest Led Zeppelin fan. But if Led Zeppelin or Blue Cheer were the real creators of heavy metal, we would not have. I don't think we'd have thrash. I don't think we'd have, because nobody would be building on these strong, powerful, dark riffs that Tony Iommi was playing. All right, let's jump into this, And I'm going to play what I ripped from my CD. And again, this is the 1970 rip. This is, so when CDs first came out, this is the one that, the first version that came out. You know, if there was a remaster sometime in the 80s, then it's probably, you know, this is probably that version. And this was neat with these old CDs because they'd give you a little bio in each Black Sabbath album, a little story. But this is the closest rip to the actual 1970 version as there is. So, and again, I've said I've sold my old CDs off, so I found that I got that on eBay. I remember when it came to the cover, you know, plastic was all shoddy and whatnot, so, you know, I bought a bunch of cases and got new cases. So this is the closest version digitally from a CD that you would get to the original. Again, I'm only going to play snippets. I don't want this taken down. So here's the first one, Black Sabbath. And again, this eerie rain and the bells. Ozzy, the doom in his voice with this one. Trying to get to the upbeat. So yeah, there we go. It starts off very gloomy, very ominous, and then it still stays that way, but goes into a faster pace. I could only imagine somebody who has no idea what they just bought. Even because you didn't even know off Evil Woman because it was only played once. So unless you happened to be up at 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning, you didn't know what the heck it was that you just bought. The next song is The Wizard. Ozzy's harmonica. And again, this was inspired from Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. So now we go into the first one that's kind of, you know, this several songs in one. Wasp, Behind the Wall of Sleep, basically an NIB. This is really kind of Behind the Wall of Sleep and NIB. Yeah, I'm skipping around, so it's NIB now. My favorite off this album. Yeah, that one is absolutely, without a doubt, my favorite off this album. The next one is Wicked World. Love the groove. One thing that you can absolutely hear in this music, and they get farther from it as the albums go out, but they're blues influence. Tony is very influenced by the blues, and obviously they were the Polka Talk Blues Band at one point, and then Earth, and then they totally changed to be Black Sabbath, and they changed. They would have still been Earth, but there was another band in England called Earth. But you can hear the blues in this. I mean, the heavy metal came from the blues. Interesting. But it works very well. A Bit of Finger, Sleeping Village, and Warning. Now, Warning is a cover. It's an Ainsley Dunbar cover. Warning. And again, I'm just playing snippets. You guys, most of you watching the video know this. Now, I added, in this digital version, I added Evil Woman to this. Originally, that's where the CD this CD ended, but I put Evil Woman on just so I would have it with this album. I love this song. You can see it even finds it from a different album. And I have heard the Crow version many times, but this one's much, much better. Yeah, I love this this album. It usually isn't people's absolute favorite out of the Black Sabbath lineup, but it's still, I mean, you can't go wrong with 70s Sabbath. And I include Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. Never Say Die is my least favorite of 70s Sabbath, but you really can't go wrong with it. I do have the deluxe edition of this floating around my house. I don't know where it is. Between me and the girls, one of us has it. This is just the album. This is where we have some interesting different stuff on it. This is an outtake of the song Black Sabbath. Not as polished, I guess. NIB instrumental, that's great. Evil Woman, here's a alternate version. I know just what you're looking for. Oh, a little flute in the background there. Nice. So that's fun to have. This deluxe edition is fun to have for these outtakes and stuff. But again, this is, again, as I started to say, this usually isn't people's favorite Sabbath album, but that doesn't mean it's not an unbelievable album. It's just they put out better stuff. Now, there are people that this is their favorite album, so God bless. I would never argue that. But this is it, man. Everybody who's watching this, for the most part, is a fan of metal. And you're wrong. If you think that this heavy metal started with Blue Chair or Led Zeppelin or Deep Purple, no, that one I'll argue. It was with this. So, happy 55th birthday, Black Sabbath debut album, and thank you for bringing us an entire genre with 2,000 subgenres of music. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Again, I'm on, I always gotta look at my little sticky note. Instagram, The Strange Voyage Files, and on X, at Strange Voyage 81. Please like, subscribe, and hit that little bell, and I will see you soon. So I ended the video and didn't even realize I never ranked this. So let's do this. All right, and I'm gonna break these up into the songs that they really kind of are. I'm gonna put Wasp and Behind the Wall of Sleep together, basically NIB together, A Bit of Finger, and Sleeping Village together. So for Black Sabbath, the song, I give that one a 4. It took me a while. I'm going to be honest. It took me a while for that song to grow on me, but it has now. I don't think it's perfect, but it is a really great song. The Wizard's a 5. I absolutely love The Wizard. Behind the Wall of Sleep, that'll be a 4 too. I think it's a great song, but it's not a perfect song at all. But it is still, that takes nothing away from it. NIB is a 5,000. One of the best songs ever written. Wicked World is a 4 for me. Again, great song. Not a perfect song, but I do love that one. Sleeping Village. I really like Sleeping Village. That's a 5. I love the omniscience of it. Of that one. So Sleeping Village is a 5. Warning is a 4. That's the Ainsley Dunbar cover. Do I put Evil Woman on there? Why not? Because I did Warning. So it's my review. I'm giving Evil Woman a 5. I've always loved that song. And again, hearing the Crow version, I think that Evil Woman, this version is 1,000 times better. Now, as far as Warning, I like the Black Sabbath version better, but either one isn't going to do anything for me. All right, so 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 5. 36. Make sure this is right. 5, 10, 8. Yep, so 36 divided by 1, 2, 3. Yes, this is how long it takes me to do math. 4.5, the album's a 5. I'll take it all day long. That this album's a 5, I will take that all day long. All right, my friends, thank you again. I can't believe I haven't been sleeping much the past couple of days, so I'm kind of struggling here. All right, thank you. And again, like, subscribe, and hope you liked the video.